Hello, I'm Heidi Shedlock and welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to share with you a brand of paint that not many people know about. Now, shortly after filming this video, Supernova, who import this Spanish brand of paint into South Africa that I'm going to share with you today, contacted me to say that they would be giving a discount coupon for anybody who had watched this video. So at the end of the video, I will share the details with you if you think that this is a brand of paint that you would like to give a try. They also do inks, acrylic inks, watercolor dyes. There's a couple of products that they bring in. I also want to just let you know that today's video is not a paid promotion. I've not been paid to share these materials with you. The materials I use in today's video were materials that I purchased. I paid for them myself, and I would not be sharing them if it wasn't something that I genuinely loved using in my own studio. So it's not a paid promotion, but at the end of today's video, I'll share a coupon code with you that you can use if you want to give this brand a try. I hope this is super helpful. It's always nice to be introduced to a brand of paint that maybe you didn't know about before. So let's get started and I'll share it with you.
It is a stinking hot day in Durban. I'm nearly dying of heat this morning. I'm feeling kind of claustrophobic in the studio because I'm surrounded by mess at the moment. I'm in the midst of a whole lot of projects and packing, painting, so there's packing stuff everywhere. This is my studio office, so it's not even supposed to be where I have got painting things going on, but it's a right royal mess in here. I also have an exciting delivery coming today that I want to share with you, and so I'm so flipping excited for the stuff to arrive because I'm dying to have a look at it, and I'm going to be sharing it with you. It is a brand of paints that I am sure most of you don't even know about. Now, in South Africa, sometimes we don't have as many choices as what everybody else around the world has. So when you find a nice brand that is affordable, because a lot of the overseas brands, so brands that if you don't live in South Africa and you live overseas, brands that you would be familiar with like Liquitex and Golden, they are all quite expensive here in South Africa. So I am trying to find an affordable option of acrylic paint that I can use for my journals. You know, I'm more than happy to buy more expensive paint on items that I know I'm going to be selling. Obviously, you always want to, whoopsie, told you it's messy in here. Look, I'm even knocking things over. It's time to clean up. Anyway, what was I saying? I've forgotten what I was telling you now. Oh, if you are selling a piece, then obviously you want to be working in the most affordable, good quality materials that you can. But if I'm working in my sketchbooks, you know, I want to find something that works well in my sketchbooks and that doesn't break the bank, because I like to be able to be generous with my paint in my sketchbooks, and I don't like to feel like I'm having to scrimp and scrape with putting out little bits of paint. And at the end of this tutorial, I'm going to show you how I sort out my acrylic paints that I use for my journals so that I don't scrimp and scrape on paint, because I don't know about you, but I'm an oil painter. Oil paint is my first choice of medium. So I'm used to squeezing out beautiful, generous, big blobs of oil paint, and they don't go hard because you can keep coming and working back with them, and they don't dry out immediately. However, when you squeeze out big, generous blobs of acrylic, if you don't use them in that set sitting or while you're painting, then they go hard, and then you feel like you're wasting the materials. And I hate that. I hate having to feel like I've got to squeeze out little blobs of paint because I don't want it to dry out. So I've got a little system that I keep with my acrylics. Obviously, if I'm working on bigger paintings in my studio and I'm using acrylic, I happily squeeze out generous, blobs of paint. But for my sketchbooks, you know, sometimes, especially if I'm working on a little page, I don't want to feel like I've got to be picky about squeezing out little dabs of paint. I want to have generous paint to work with. So at the end of this tutorial, I am going to share with you how I use my acrylic paints for my journals, how I keep them. It also means that they're easy to travel with. If I'm going somewhere and I want to take them with me, so I'll share that with you at the end. I'm sitting today waiting for a package that I'm hoping is going to have a beautiful quality paint that is super affordable, especially for using in my journals. And from what I've experienced of this brand, they're a fabulous quality and super affordable. Did I say that? I bet you don't know about this brand of paints, because I certainly didn't know about them until I met Lindy, who owns the company in South Africa that imports them. Yes, they're imported and still affordable. Sounds too good to be true, right? I hope you're going to join me today, because I'm hoping to share with you when this package arrives, hopefully introduce you to a beautiful new brand of paint that maybe you don't even know about. And I'm sure they are available overseas. If they're available here in South Africa, they're definitely available elsewhere. So let me stop yakking. I am going to tidy my studio, and hopefully the doorbell will be ringing soon with my package. Boy, let's go to the art studio. Thank you so much, Supernova, for packaging the paint so well so that they got to me safely. A little bonus. Thank you from Supernova. Nothing says it better than a good piece of sweetness. They've sent me a little piece of fudge. Thank you so much. So let me show you what is in my box. If you haven't guessed already, of course, it's definitely paint that I have ordered in. It is a brand of paint that I'm sure none of you know about, or many of you probably don't know about. I am dying to try these. I do have my own bottle of white. Now, that is what has prompted me to try this brand of paint, because I have this bottle of white that I was gifted, and I love the fact that it is super matte. Well, not super matte, it's almost like a sort of satin sheen finish. So it's absolutely beautiful to use in my sketchbooks. I'm going to be showing you what I am going to be doing with these colors. I'm going to show you what I like to do with my acrylics for my sketchbooks. Let me pull these all out of the box so I can show you the colors I've chosen and why I've chosen them. So the Vallejo brand of paints are actually a Spanish brand of paint, and they are imported into South Africa by a company called Supernova. I first found out about Supernova when I met Lindy, who brings these beautiful paints into the country, and she reached out to me once to try some of the paints. So I have tried a wide range of their materials, and Lindy has also on occasion kindly run beautiful specials for the Creative Community Studio members. That is my teaching and mentoring membership platform. So she has kindly run specials for those members before, but I absolutely love all the products that I have used from them before. I also just want to say that this is not a sponsored video. So the paints that you have seen today, I have paid for them. I have bought them for my studio. So while I've been fortunate enough to play with many of their products, what you see today, I've ordered, I've paid for. So I wouldn't be sharing this with you if I didn't genuinely love the products that I have used. So I'm not being paid by Supernova or even Vallejo to share this with you. I just want to introduce you to a beautiful, affordable brand that I can't understand why so many people don't know about it here in South Africa. So anyway, what has sparked me ordering in these acrylics is that generally, a lot of the acrylics that I love using for my paintings, and they're obviously slightly more expensive brands, very often I find they dry with quite a high sheen or a high gloss. And in my sketchbooks, I don't really love that, because sometimes it makes the pages stick together a little bit. Now, I don't know if it's something that gets added to the paint to make it more glossy, or something that's in the binder. But generally, I find when a paint is super glossy or has quite a high sheen, it tends to stick the pages together a lot easier in my sketchbook, and I flipping hate that when I've done something and now my pages stick together because I've forgotten to put a piece of paper in the middle or something like that. And I have not used these studio acrylics in my sketchbook before, but I have used this white. It's the only studio acrylic that I had. I also a while ago ordered, you can get the studio acrylics in tubes. I ordered this beautiful pink, but I actually haven't had a chance to try it. Look, do you see Lumo pink? You know I love a little bit of Lumo every now and again. So I've tried this white, and it does have more of a satin finish to it. So my thinking is that this brand of paints the Studio acrylic might actually be perfect for my sketchbooks, because if they don't dry with a really high gloss sheen, I always think that sometimes the paints that dry with a real high gloss, they sometimes tend to look a bit plasticky to me. Maybe that's because I'm an oil painter, and so I love the gloss of oil paint, but somehow the gloss of acrylics sometimes to me can look like it's more plasticky. Is that just me? Might just be me. But anyway, this is definitely not a high gloss, but it has a beautiful satin finish, and so I'm hoping that it's going to be perfect for my sketchbooks, and that when I paint in my sketchbooks with acrylics, they're not going to stick together. I want to just very quickly show you some of their other products which I love. These are their fluid acrylics. The fluid acrylics are super runny, a bit like a golden fluid acrylic. Honestly, same quality. I've got golden fluid acrylics and I've got these Vallejo fluid acrylics. They are exactly the same and they are half of the price. I love using fluid acrylics to create interesting layers and things happening underneath the surface of my painting before I start painting. So those are a lovely thing that I've tried before. I also love they've got a range of paints called Art Deco. They are super matte and beautiful to use on any surface, and I do love using these in my sketchbooks. I have also tried their gouache. Their gouache though is an acrylic gouache. I'm going to be sharing lots more about gouache. I love gouache. I'll be sharing more about gouache with you, but I love their acrylic gouache, and in particular the white, because it doesn't reconstitute when you wet it. So I do particularly love this. I'm really super keen to try these. So let me get out my sketchbook, some water, some pens. The cleaning up is going to have to wait a little bit. I'm super excited to open these paints. Let's get started. Oh my giddy aunt, nothing makes me more excited than a whole lot of new paints to play with. Now, I am so excited to give these a try. Basically, I have gathered a very select range of colors here, and I'm going to explain to you why. What I like to do is work with a limited palette. So I've chosen a yellow, a nice medium cad yellow. I like to always choose a warm and a cool of each color. I would have liked to have had a yellow ochre here, but I couldn't find a yellow ochre. So I would have also included a yellow ochre, but just having this yellow is fine. And then I've chosen a warm and a cool primary red. So the yellow is rolling away. So this is a nice cad red. And in lieu of there being sort of an alizarin or a cooler red, I have got a magenta, which when mixed with a little bit of this red will make that cooler, more purpley red. I've then got an ultramarine, phthalo, I don't even know how you say that. Cyanine, I have no idea. Phthalo, I'll just call it phthalo blue. So my primaries, I always like to work with a limited palette, because I think when you are first working with something, it's really good to learn how to mix as many of your colors as possible with your primaries. So I've got in one of each of the primaries, and then I have got a brown, an umber, which I can use for neutralizing colors. I also have not bought the black to use as a black paint. If I'm going to make a black, I prefer to make my own black. For example, ultramarine and burnt umber make beautiful blacks, or a combination of your primaries make beautiful deep neutrals. I really like to make my own black. So I have included a black, but I haven't included the black for the purpose of using it as a black, although it is nice to sort of desaturate the color a little bit. But I do love to make greens using black and yellow. Black and yellow make such beautiful greens. So for my foliage, I'll include the black, not to use as a black, but to make green combinations. And then because a lot of the time I am painting foliage, I have ordered in 2 of the lovely greens that I saw. They did have a sap green. I didn't bother to order the sap green because it's very similar to the colors that I could make using my yellows, my blues, and even hints of my brown, or even my yellow and my black. But I love the look of this color. It is called olive green, and I love the fact that it looked almost like a deep browny shade. Let's see if it'll pick up in the light. Oh, it's probably got a cap. No, it doesn't have a cap. Look. Oh, look at that lovely color. I love the look of that, so I thought I would get it because I obviously use lots of greens in my foliage. And then I have another, that That word gets me every time. Thylocyanine green, however you say it. I just call it phthalo green. Phthalo green is a bit like a viridian. Very similar, very strong, potent greens. Look at that. Look how strong it is. I would never use this green on its own. It's way too... If I squeeze it up, can you see the color? I'm going to show you some samples of these. But it's a really strong color. I would never use this color on its own, but it is beautiful for mixing. So I've ordered in my 2 greens just to give me a bit of variation in mixing up the greens. Chances are, this one looks quite nice on its own, but chances are I will use these in mixes with other greens, because obviously when I'm painting flowers and I have lots of foliage, I want a beautiful rich variety of greens. So my first choice is to always make my greens, but it's really helpful having the odd color that you can then alter and mix with as well. And reds and this beautiful phthalo green make beautiful deep dark blacks and neutrals as well. Of course, your complementary colors. Oranges I wouldn't get because I can mix up my oranges. Beautiful deep purples and mauves I can mix up. I can pretty much mix a beautiful selection of colors from this. So I'm going to do a few little color swatches just to show you what these colors look like. I won't bore you. I won't show you all the colors, but I'll show you a few of them. I forgot to add in that, of course, if I was making this purchase, I would have added in a white, because obviously your white is, you know, you're going to use it to make your tints with. And I didn't order the white, however, because as I said, I already have a white and I've absolutely loved this white, which is what prompted me to try a few of their other colors. Let's see what the pigment content is like. And that is always visible when you start mixing colors together, to be able to see the colors that you're able to get. I've already gone ahead and done a little tester. I went ahead and opened the bottles, and just using bits that had gathered in the lid, I did little testers. So what I always like to do is just try the color and then test it with a little bit of white underneath, just to see what the color does when white is added to it, a tint of that color. I must say these have already dried, and they have dried to a beautiful satiny consistency. I'm not sure if you can see it in the camera. As a matter of fact, you probably won't be able to see it in the camera, but they have dried to a beautiful satiny consistency, which is just fabulous, because it means that chances are it's not going to stick in my sketchbook. One of the things that I like to try, a nice way to test pigments, is to see how they mix and the type of colors that they make. That really gives you an indication of the pigment quality. So for example, I should remember my black. I haven't bought to use as a black. I want to use my black and my yellow to make beautiful greens. We're going to test that. I also want to see how deep the beautiful black is that I can make using, for example, my browns and my blues, or my greens and my magentas. This phthalo blue is, it is a hectic green. The phthalo green. It is a really hectic green, but it is going to be so valuable for color mixing. It's also quite lovely and transparent, which is quite nice. Found the cad yellow quite transparent, but that's also not such a bad thing, because then you can, with a bit of glaze medium, use it to lift things. I was also worried that the phthalo blue and the ultramarine were going to be too similar in color, and that maybe I should have bought the cerulean. Well, actually, did they have a cerulean? I know they've got it in the small tubes, but in the bottles, I can't remember. But they had another blue that was a lot lighter, that I thought I could rather make by adding white to a blue. I was hesitant about these two. I thought they were going to be too similar, but they're actually not. They're completely different. One is warm and one is cool, and this is definitely, that's more on the purple side, that's definitely more on the green side. So I'm really chuffed with that combination. The burnt umber I found to be more like a raw umber. It's quite a cold brown. It doesn't really matter, because I'm also happy to be able to mix and make my own browns. The only two things that are missing from here probably for me is I would love a burnt sienna, and I would love a yellow ochre. And this olive green, surprisingly enough, I could actually see myself using that on its own. It actually is a beautiful color, especially when mixed with white. It makes a really beautiful color. So I'm really chuffed with that one. But as I said to you, I normally make my own green, so I'm sure this will end up in lots of combinations. So let me show you how I'm going to decant these paints for use in my sketchbooks. And then we'll come back here and have a play with some of the pigments. I wanted to very quickly share with you how I use my acrylics for my sketchbook. Now you're probably wondering, why on earth did I buy such a stinking big bottle when you can get little tubes like this? Surely that's more affordable. But what I like to do is I like to squeeze out some paints into little containers. Now, what it means is that I don't have to worry about squeezing out paint, even if it's just for a small page in my sketchbook. And then if I'm not going to be working in acrylics that day, because sometimes I'm working on an oil painting, and now I don't want that paint to go to waste. What I like to do is I buy these containers from a local storage place here in South Africa, a packaging company here in Durban, and they are just the little containers that your sauce, condiments and things like that come in. We also order out sushi every now and again. So every time we order sushi, their soy sauce and things come in these little containers. I save them, I don't throw them away. And I did a water test. I put a bit of water in them, check, nothing spills out. And so what I do now is I decant some of my acrylics into these little containers, and I put a nice big juicy blob in here. And it means that I can use really nice big fat brushes even, and they can get inside here. I can squeeze out nice big generous blobs of paint. Don't give me tiny little blobs of paint. I just can't paint like that. So I still have beautiful big juicy blobs of paint here to work with. I can use a nice big brush and get stuck in. And I don't have to worry about wasting paint. I don't have to worry that I'm going to be squeezing out a whole lot of paint just for one sketchbook. But before I close them up, I give them a little spritz with this mixture. It stops them from going moldy. It also keeps them nice and damp. And then I seal them up. Now, if you live in a really hot place like me, Durban is just so humid and hot. Obviously, the hot weather doesn't help. What I do is I put these in a container and I just store them in my fridge. I find that the cooler weather also just sort of helps, especially now in summer. They have a tendency to dry out much easier. But you definitely need to give them a bit of a spritz so that they stay nice and wet. And then next time I want to paint, I come, pull them out, and I've still got beautiful big blobs of paint that I can work with. Obviously, over time, they get a bit gungy and, messy. But it does mean that if I'm painting and I have popped my brush, for example, in some blue, and I'm painting and I want to grab a bit of white, I'm not contaminating huge big things of paint or dipping it into pots of paint. Still got beautiful big generous bits that I can use there. And I also like to label the little jars. So here I've labeled that it's Vallejo magenta, so that if I ever need to refill the jar, because I do have a couple of these with other acrylics that I have in the studio, just want to show you today decanting the Vallejo ones. Can't wait to give these a try. It's 4 days later and I'm only just getting back to these colors now, but I wanted to show you how, even though they have been sitting in my fridge for 4 days, they are still beautiful and gooey. Let's get started with a little bit of color checking and color mixing. Hopefully you pick up a few little color tips. Let's start off by having a look at some of those beautiful greens that I told you about. Let's get some of our yellow on here. So that's already making a lovely olive. Let's take a little bit more of the yellow. So this Mars back is quite potent. I normally prefer a lamp black or an ivory black to a Mars black because they tend to make, they're more a blue back, and so that's what they make a beautiful green. But look at these colors here. They're very neutral green, almost a deep olivey green. I'm not sure how well this is showing up on the camera. The yellow is quite transparent for color mixing, but I think I'm kind of happy with those greens. Let's compare next to this olive green. Let's just put a little bit of that olive green in there. Oh yes, look at that. Beautiful. Let's take a little bit of the blue. Let's mix it into that olive green. Oh, look at these beautiful greens. I am absolutely loving these greeny tones that are happening here. I'm just bringing in a little bit of the white. I love these old scratchy brushes. Look there. Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. If you're a landscape painter, look at these lovely greens. What I want to check is I want to take a little bit of my brown, and I'm going to take a little bit of my ultramarine blue, and let's see if we can get a nice deep dark, because that is always a good indication of a paint. When you can make a beautiful deep rich dark black, then it means that those colors are nice and pigmented. There we go. Really nice dark color happening down here. Should we add a little bit of white to it to see? And that's making, oh, look at that. Can you see that color? It's almost making like a Payne's grey. Lovely. Oh, juicy, juicy, juicy. Okay, I'm very happy with that as a black. I wonder if the phthalo blue will make a completely different black. Let's have a look. Let's take the phthalo blue and let's add some of the brown to the phthalo blue. Now I'm just dipping, I'm double dipping. So I'm dipping in the blue and then dipping in the brown. So now you can see why I like to have my paints in little pots, so that if they become, colors become a bit contaminated, doesn't really matter. I can lift it out. I'm not contaminating the whole pot. I'm also not squeezing out huge amounts of paint so that, you know, worrying about it. Oh, look at that. This is almost making like a bit of a midnighty blue. I suppose I could have added a little bit more brown, but the reality is that this color was so black already that I couldn't actually notice how blue it is. But I suppose I could add a little bit more brown and it might knock it back. But some beautiful darks. Oh, I absolutely love using blacks that are made by color rather than chromatic blacks is the word I'm thinking of. So let's have a look, because another lovely chromatic black is a magenta and phthalo green. So let's show you how I would use my phthalo green. I think this is going to make a deep, almost like a purple black. Oh, I think I dipped a bit too much. It's going to make a very deep, almost like a purple black, which you will only notice once I add a little bit of white to it. Oh, look at these lovely colors. Okay, I think we need to lighten things up a little bit. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay, I'm loving this. Yes, lovely colors. Oh, look at that. Those of you, oh, look at that beautiful sky color. No colors out the tube. Color mixing is always so exciting. You really don't need to buy light blue out of the tube for your skies. You can make your own beautiful blues. Look at that color. It's gorgeous. Okay, now there's no orange here, so let's use our reds and our yellows and let's get a little orange going. Let's see how well this yellow is going to fare up in making an orange. I must say I'm finding this yellow quite transparent, and so I'm having to use a whole lot more of it than what I would have thought I would have to, but that doesn't matter. Still making beautiful colors. Yes, look at that. Lovely, 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 lovely. Very happy with that. Very, very happy with that. Let's pick up a little bit of white. Yep. Okie dokie. Oh, are you still in the camera? Look at that. Now I'm going to take a little bit of brown and add it, just a tiny little bit, to this orange and see what it does, because the one color I feel like I'm missing here is a burnt sienna. So let's see if I can get more of a burnt sienna color. Yep, there we go. There's my burnt sienna. So maybe I don't actually need a burnt sienna on my palette after all. Look at that. Very happy with that. Beautiful. Okay, so I was thinking I'd have to go and find a burnt sienna. Nope. The nicest colors on your paintings are always the ones that you have made yourselves. Look at that. There's my burnt sienna. Beautiful. Okay, very happy with that. Let's think of some other combos. Let's get some purples going. So we'll get our magenta. Get our magenta going. Get a little bit of our ultramarine, which is more the purpley blue. More purpley blue. There we go. Two beautiful purples happening there. Always like to add a little bit of white to it, because it's the white that will actually show you, you know, the white helps you to actually be able to see the tone of that color. Okay, two beautiful purples. I'm very happy with that. Another lovely combo is, so we've used our magenta and our phthalo. Let me show you what else I would use the phthalo for. So I'm going to add a little bit of phthalo. Let's take a little bit of our more cad red, and that's going to also make a very deep, beautiful, almost like a maroony brown color, like a beautiful, deep, warm brown, almost like a plum. So enough red added to it, let's add a bit more red on the side, then becomes like your crimson, almost like your alizarins, your crimson colors, and a tiny little bit of the magenta to that could also then make for beautiful, deep, rich crimson colors. Oh yes. Oh, can you see? Sorry, you're out of the... Now, let me add a little bit of white to this so that you can see, or else they're not going to really show up on the camera. There we go. Those colors. Let's have a look here. Oh yes, there's your crimson, your alizarin crimson. Can you see that beautiful crimson color? And then over here we're going to get our beautiful plum, almost like that maroony, browny. Oh my goodness, so many beautiful colors from just a small palette of paints. And we haven't even mixed any turquoises or you know, cerulean-y colors. Look at this beautiful phthalo with a phthalo blue. Let's mix that up. A little bit of phthalo blue and a little bit of phthalo green, two extremely potent colors. Extremely potent colors. And then we're going to pick up our white. And look at that. Now, I actually find that quite, whoa, in your face, turquoisey blue, almost like a teal. If it was too intense for you, you could either add a little pinprick of, you know, your red to knock it back a little bit, or I'm going to just ever so slightly dip into my burnt umber, ever so slightly, knock it back a little bit. So I'm almost neutralizing that color a little bit, neutralizing that teal, and then I could add some more white to it. And then it's not such an intense teal color. So can you see the difference there? Anyway, so much happening here on this page, and I am so frigging delighted with these colors. I think they are absolutely amazing. I was worried that the yellow was quite transparent, but no ways, Jose's. It is, oh, look at that with the blue, picking up the blue on my brush. I am very happy with how that yellow is faring. If I kept adding a little bit more yellow to it, it's going to almost go to a beautiful limey green tone. Okay, nothing wrong with this yellow at all. So, absolutely gorgeous. I hope you've enjoyed seeing that. A very limited palette, and honestly, I could carry on filling 3 pages of this journal with color swatches of these colors, the mixes that are possible, and more importantly, I'm just so delighted to see how intense the darks are, because the darks are always an indication of how much pigment is in your paint. And if the paint is not pigmented enough, then, or your pigment quality in your paint is not high enough, then you're going to really struggle to mix beautiful, intense, bright colors. Whoa, and there are some beautiful colors here. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to give them all a little spritz again with my little mixture to stop them going moldy. And I'm going to pop their lids on and put them back in my fridge when I'm ready to paint in a couple of days' time. I will be sharing with you pretty soon the little mixture that I make up to stop my paints going moldy, which is really important for me here in Durban, because our humidity levels are so high, and anything that's wet or damp or moist very quickly gets a bit moldy. So I don't want that happening to my beautiful new paint. Thank you, Supernova in Durban, for importing such beautiful Spanish paint for us. I absolutely love it. I can't wait to paint lots of beautiful pictures in my sketchbooks, and I've got a feeling that the pages are not going to be sticking together because it dries to a beautiful satin finish. It's not sticky, shiny when it's dry. I have really rambled on a bit today, so I'm going to tie it up really quickly just to let you know that I absolutely love these. Don't think I'm going to just be using them in my sketchbooks, because the quality of them is absolutely lovely. The pigment is really great. I think that they're going to be a great studio addition, not only for my sketchbooks, but I might no reason why I can't use them in my paintings either. So I'm super excited about this purchase. I'm really glad I decided to get them, and I may even add to a few of the colours. But I'm super excited with the primaries and to experiment with some of those greens for my foliage. I just wanted to share with you a beautiful product available here in South Africa that I'm sure many of you didn't even know is available. And if you are watching this and you don't live in South Africa, I'm sure that you will easily have access to this brand if you shop around and have a look.
So thank you for joining me in my studio today. I hope you found it useful finding out about an affordable brand of paint that maybe you didn't know about before. If you are interested in trying the Vallejo range of art materials, Supernova have kindly given a discount code. If you use the coupon code Creative Community Studio, all capitals, one word, in your checkout, then you will get 15% off of your purchase. So the details are in the show notes or the video notes below. You can go and have a look there, and you will also find the link to the Supernova website where you can go and view all of their products. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope if you try these products that you love them as much as I do. So I'll see you back here again soon. I share a video every Sunday at 4 p.m. I hope that if you've enjoyed joining me, you will hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already done so, because I would love to get to know you. Leave a comment if you have a art material that you love using in your studio. Share with me what your favorite brands are. I would love to know. Otherwise, I will see you back here next week.